I love the late Kentaro Miura's Berserk, as I'm sure plenty of you do as well. It will be revered for decades or possibly centuries to come, as it stands at the apex of what manga has been able to achieve since the art form's conception. However, for as much as I adore the manga, I believe the original anime adaptation is worth celebrating for its 25th anniversary. The date was October 8th, 1997 in Japan, or October 7th in the West. The first episode of Berserk aired on Nippon TV, and in a somewhat hilarious twist of fate, it just so happens that I was also born that very day. As a birthday gift to myself and a celebration of Berserk's 25th anniversary, I want to talk about it. After a quarter century, can this adaptation hold water, and regardless of its incomplete nature, is it still worth watching? To cut to the chase, yes it can, and yes it absolutely is. The anime is not perfect, the animation can be stilted, pivotal scenes from the manga are absent, and it only tells a small portion of a much larger story. Yet, I have no desire to dwell on its handful of shortcomings. I would rather highlight why I believe this adaptation is still worthy of the name Berserk, and what makes it one of my personal favorite anime ever made. Let's start simple. Berserk's story is handled with the utmost care. The manga is one of the most finely detailed and layered stories, rich with themes, compelling drama, and introspective writing. The adaptation removes a handful of scenes, some of which have admittedly significant character and world building, but nothing that weakens those fundamental strengths. Guts, Griffith, Casca, and the Band of the Hawk have their stories told in a nearly complete way as far as the Golden Age arc goes, with little to no deviations. After seeing later adaptations completely miss the mark in representing these characters and their stories, not to mention poor adaptations of other manga I love, I appreciate how 1997 was able to tell a story full of intricacies with such fidelity. What is lacking is only additional context and a proper continuation. The Golden Age story is intact and the characters are unmarred as a result. Of course, as it is the most infamous part of this adaptation, the ending of episode 25 leaves a little to be desired. It would have been preferable if there was at least one more episode to round out the fates of these characters, but if I could change anything about this interpretation of the story, it actually wouldn't be the ending, which was always going to be an unsatisfying bookend to some extent, no matter where it ended. Instead, I would have greatly appreciated the Black Swordsman arc being fully adapted, because as it stands, episode 1 only serves to confuse rather than to intrigue. The ending of Black Swordsman is why the arc works so well as an introduction to the story. It recontextualizes who Guts is as a person and makes the reader question how this otherwise emotionally vulnerable soul became such a cruel, vicious person, all while alluding to this mysterious enigma as the source of Guts' wrath. It isn't a perfect introduction, and some of the fat could have been cut to keep the runtime down, but it would have been worth adapting the ending of the Black Swordsman into at least one more episode. Still, even with that all in mind, I don't believe a weak beginning and an unsatisfying end can demerit the bulk of the Golden Age arc. This is still one of the best stories ever told in anime, albeit not the most complete. The soundtrack is the most universally acclaimed part of this adaptation, and for good reason. Hirasawa Susumu was the perfect fit for Berserk, not in a literal sense. I can't say his electronic music immediately provokes feelings of medieval fantasy, but all of his soundtracks are finely crafted to bleed into the identity of their respective anime, and that's no different here. Berserk's soundtrack is limited in scope, only 9 songs total, but is not limited in emotion or variety. Guts' theme is emotionally contemplative, captures the energy of battle in a grand way, but there's also the serene and dreamlike earth, my personal favorite, the blood-curdling monster, unsettling fear, and mysterious Behelit. Despite the low quantity of songs, each one elicits a unique emotion that represents the wide array of Berserk. It has a duality of monstrous terror and beautiful tenderness, just like Berserk itself. The soundtrack is the ingredient that makes the bread extra fluffy. It helps set the tone of an incredible story. It is nearly as important to my experience with the Golden Age arc as Miura's incredible artwork, because without it, some scenes would have never given me the same emotional connection that I was able to make. I occasionally wish there were a few more songs, maybe one more epic battle theme like Forces, but keeping the track list so brief does mean each song retains a specific role. And even with so few tracks to pick from, the anime didn't necessarily need additional songs because it often refrains from overusing music, allowing for quieter moments and saves it for when it counts. The opening and ending themes are also great. I don't know how we got to a point that it became a meme to like Tell Me Why, or that anyone thought it was bad in the first place. Maybe it's because a majority of anime fans only listen to anime music, which tends to be very polished in production. I couldn't say why. That's absolutely why. I've heard hundreds of anime openings at this point, and it's rare to find this strong of a personality. Sure, the guitar has a strange tune, but the riff is undeniably catchy, only being topped by the infectious vocals and youthful lyrics. It's fun to meme, absolutely, but I love it unironically, and I'll sing it in the shower for the rest of my life. The ending theme, Waiting So Long, is quite good at capping off episodes with a hint of melancholic nostalgia. I don't have quite as strong of an attachment to it as Tell Me Why, but I do think it works as a tonal counterbalance. On one hand, most bands unconditionally love the soundtrack, while on the other hand, the animation is constantly regarded as its worst quality. The animation can be stilted and unpolished, but I'm tired of pretending like Berserk isn't a good-looking anime. It has excellent color choices, great adaptations of complicated character designs, backgrounds that bring the world to life, and an art style that works within reason of Kentaro Miura's. All of this can be attributed to the late master craftsman Shichiro Kobayashi, who unfortunately passed away this year. His work in the anime industry is highlighted by titles like Lupin III, The Castle of Cagliostro, Revolutionary Girl Utena, Angel's Egg, and even one of my favorite comedies, Detroit Metal City, but his reach touches more than 100 shows. It goes without saying how important it is to honor the music of Susumu or even Miura for writing and illustrating the original story, but Kobayashi should be given ample amounts of credit for making the anime what it was. His backgrounds are beautifully painted, and the dark, saturated color palette gives Berserk a sinister tone that makes up for the lack of Miura's soul-crushing ink. If I had to choose between smoother animation and this art direction, I would always pick the art direction. Even without movement, Kobayashi's signature harmony cells are a fantastic way to illustrate the poignancy of emotion or the intensity of battle. For those reasons, among others, I could never trade off Kobayashi's contributions to Berserk. I could go on forever about why I love Berserk's manga, but this adaptation is a wonderful representation of why I love it. It was my introduction to this beautifully twisted world, its story and characters, and to this day I feel it's more than adequate as an introduction. It may have some faults, but beyond a few concessions, I almost enjoy this version of Golden Age more than any other. It does not tell the full story, and anyone would be remiss to watch this in place of the manga, but I can't imagine a better supplementary experience. This anime doesn't have all the bells and whistles of your fancy Demon Slayers and Chainsaw Mans, but it enriches Berserk with compelling music and beautiful artwork while still retaining most of what makes the manga so special. Not every Berserk fan will feel the same, but I love this anime just as I love the manga, and I couldn't be happier to celebrate my own 25th birthday with it.